All right, let's take a little break and we'll look at some earnings reports here. We're going to go in and take a look at Tesla today. This stock is a big mover and shaker, and it's kind of going down lately. Right now, it's down $25.96 as of just a couple more hours to go into the close. I've got Carvana also down about $8 and 4. So market overall is taking a little bit of a hit. So there's a lot of negativity going on in the marketplace. So I'll show you some things with the chart as we break some things down. If you look at Tesla here, it slides on margin concerns, Musk production warning. Some people are saying, hey, the stock's only worth $85. I mean, when you really think about it, when you look at just companies in general in that space, remember, something's worth what somebody's willing to pay. That's true. But when you look at GM, Ford, the automakers, the companies, they're not priced at a high valuation like Tesla is. Tesla is priced at a very top valuation, and I wouldn't say priced for perfection, but it's priced very high relative to the other space. So in either case, when somebody says worth $85, it's still going to be worth a lot more than many of the other companies. It's just maybe not a $200 stock or something to that effect. So it makes sense. When we look at some of the news here, and you can see what happens is that shares dip after hours as earnings call disappoints. So they posted all-time high quarterly revenue, operating margins drop, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, point being is what's more important rather than looking at some of these things is actually looking at the behavior of what is happening in the trading space. Because now if we look at the actual behavior, we can actually say, hey, you know what? Is it a good value or bad value? Do you think buyers will step in or not? Because if buyers will step in, then it'll drive the price higher. If buyers don't step in, then it won't. So our big question is will people step up? And I think the first day, what I will give you as a warning, don't nibble on the first day. So that's just like, hey, watch out and be a little bit more careful here at the beginning. Instead, what you may want to do is give it 2 or 3 days. If you take a look at some of the past earnings reports or anything like that, and you'll just look at what happened during earnings. I don't have earnings on that one. So let me pull up like Netflix here, earnings. Oftentimes earnings takes a few days to digest. So here's Netflix also down. You can see up, 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 up. So it takes a couple days and then it kind of evens out. So if we look at Tesla in the same concept, after a little bit of a drop, there's the drop, and then the stock wiggles around for a little bit and keeps dropping for a little bit, and then it can continue on its way and then maybe go sideways or up or whatever. If you look at another earnings report, here's a pop and then it follows through. So usually with earnings, there comes a somewhat of a follow through in many cases. So this is why the first day they say, hey, you know what? Let it digest, because not everybody's working right this second at this moment. Some people are waiting to see the reaction a little bit later. Or they took off a little bit, they'll take off a little more. Or they're nibbling and buying a little and they'll nibble a little more later. So the point is that you don't have to rush into it immediately right now to get into the stock. The stock is pulling back, and I think a decent valuation for something like a Tesla right now, if we go in from a price basis, we've been looking at the support right here, and you can say that stock, if it gets to around 210, that would be good value. And you might say, hey, that's really high. Well, it was around 166 just in May. So now May, June, you're in July, so a month and a half ago, I mean, it was down there. So did a lot of things change between now and a month ago? No, because the earnings release in the quarter actually just happened. It's for the last few months, right? So 160 was not bad back then, and 160 is rational now even as well. Now, do I think it'll probably get there? No, I actually don't. I think we might get to some temporary support around maybe 220, but watch what happens when you line certain things up, is that when we actually look at the resistance levels over here in the past, that 210 level is actually coming into play again. So we could get a little bit of a down, a little pop, and then come back into the 210. It's quite possible. So it's something to watch out for as you go into the stock, because you're starting to get into this meeting point, into the zone where there's a few variables that are actually lining up for that stock to come into this space and maybe bounce later. Also, just a normal rational type of concept where you could go up, then pull back, then back up, then pull back, then back up. So now you've got this wave pattern that's being created, and it's still moving to the upside. It's just that it's moving to the upside in waves, right? Stocks don't go straight up. And that could take a few months to create, where we get a little pullback and then again, power higher. So in either case, as we look into the stock, what I want to show you is that Overall, the stock's been doing well, performing well. And if you look at the monthly, it's still holding up quite well. When we look at kind of the weekly here projection, right now on that short-term trend, it's it's a little high on the short term, because when we look at these highs right there, so let's draw it a little bit thicker, because it's confluence. There's a lot of meeting points, but look, we're hitting a lot of resistance spots over in this spot, and now this spot. So hey, that's normal. You could even call this a bit of a head and shoulder kind of pattern, maybe a double top in a way, triple top you could say, but yeah, there's like a little bit of a head there. But nevertheless, we've got a few points right there that are being hit, 3 different spots, and the stock's rejecting. It's not abnormal, but could we continue this process? Yeah, and then it could power higher right there, and then you'll have some issues around 400 if we get there. But this is what I'm looking at and what I'm seeing as far as the charts go. But on a temporary basis, it's a little more difficult. You do have this gap right there that you could say partly got filled with this point, but it is still a gap. It didn't fully get filled. So you do have that gap zone where it could get into the gap and then fill it and then power higher. Because there will be some people that missed out on this move will think, hey, well, I'll buy it here, or even just temporarily to come back to these moving averages. So anyways, that's just my take on this company and stock. And, as far as earnings go, that's kind of one thing to watch out for. I mean, they talked a lot about just different stuff on the report, but I don't think it really matters that much. To be quite honest, a lot of these reports are just fluff, and it's just, what do you think is actually looking at all this? Which one is the color red? When I start looking at something like this, is it the red shoe? Is it this red? Is it this Netflix red? What's red in your mind? It's going to be a lot of variations because there's a lot of different shades to red. So when we look at all these different colors, it's the same way that happens in these earnings reports. There's a lot of variety and variation to the words and language that's being used, and good for some people is different than great, and that's why what we want to see is watch how people are voting with their money. And right now they are selling it off. There's volume coming in on the sell side. I think partly this is also panicking away from with Netflix, because Netflix also did not have a great earnings. And then, some people are really panicking. They're thinking, oh no, it's crashing. And it is only just one day. But I will say that stock this one at least had a big run up here just recently, and now it's kind of pulling back to where it was the last month or so. So anyways, that's what I want to share with you here on the earnings report here with Tesla. There's obviously some sell side pressures. If you look at it on the daily, on the few minute chart here, 10 minutes, we're pulling back, then we pop, they're pulling back. So there's more selling that's coming in. Obviously some people dumped, and then there might be some shorts that'll pile in as well. As for playing this, I personally would play it with options. So if you're kind of brand new to the options world, highly encourage you to check out tradingwebinars.co. There's a lot of great material on there and free webinars for you that you could learn from when looking to trading options. So check it out. It's another one of my websites there, but this one is free there. There's tons of free material. So just check out the free material there, and you can get started with the option side. That way you don't have to, buy shares of Tesla. You could just do it on the option side. Anyways, thanks again. Hope you enjoyed this video. Enjoy the rest of the week ahead, and I will see you next time. All right, take care. Bye-bye.